Okay, guys, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the class. Today we are going to discuss on phrasal verbs. Okay, so phrasal verbs mostly. We'll also see if we can discuss a bit on the phrases and idioms part. But mostly we are going to focus on the phrasal verbs. Okay. So again, as usual, um, we'll have a bit of a discussion on what phrasal verbs are. We'll discuss both about their functional relevance in language learning or in the English language itself. And we'll also look at the aspects of grammar and form with respect to phrasal verbs. Okay. So just to begin talking about what phrasal verbs do, right? And just to talk a bit about its relevance in general, and then more particularly about how it works in English language. So, in general, like we discussed in the case of modal verbs last time, while we were discussing about it, I told you that modal verbs are also the kind of verbs that you may find more often in your spoken language as opposed to written formal English, right? So, in written formal English, most of the times the modal verbs that you use are usually, and their function usually is restricted to adding formal tones or adding politeness context to your writing. As such, they do not have a major role to perform in writing besides this. But in spoken form, modal verbs also, they were more utilized in the expression of modalities, right? Like everything that we discussed in the last class about how do you express ability, how you express possibility or probability or certainty and likelihood, hypothetical nature of something, general possibility. All of these modalities are usually expressed using modal verbs, and hence such expressions are more often found in your spoken language as opposed to uh, the written one. Right? Written language obviously has more conventions. They're more. It has more standard conventions to follow than spoken language. Same goes for the case of phrasal verbs, right? So phrasal verbs are more than modal verbs. Phrasal verbs are more common in your spoken language. If you are people who listen to maybe listen or watch English movies or series, or for that matter anything that is in English, right? That is more casual in nature. You would have observed that there's an abundance. Uh, there's a high frequency use of phrasal verbs in conversations, right? And if you're someone who's looking to move abroad, right? Someone who's planning to be immersed in the society that's largely English speaking, or you're generally someone who's looking to improve your spoken English, then this is one topic that you need to more pay more attention to, right? Uh, so, in that sense, uh, as a unit of study for language learning, this is a very important topic, right? It takes it's a little difficult because it's most of the phrasal verbs are also very specific to English language. You cannot find their equivalents in your language, so that kind of comparative learning is a little difficult in this case, right? So you might have to put in a little more effort in learning this topic than any other topics of concern for us. One other aspect of the phrasal verb is that what makes it a little difficult to learn is also that they often do not have literal meanings, right? So the components that have come together to form a phrasal verb, right? When I say phrasal verb, it is not one verb. The moment you have the word phrase, it means that there's a group of words. At least there are two words in that complex, if not more. So if that is the case, then one should know that uh, the other the major problem associated with it in terms of learning is that all of these phrasal verbs, at least a large majority of the phrasal verbs that are more frequently used in the English language, they have idiomatic meanings. Now, do you understand what idiomatic meaning means? What do we understand by idiomatic meanings? What do we mean by idiomatic expressions? Idioms, you know, right? What are idioms? Can anyone try and answer what are idioms? This is also, I think, a part of your um module. You probably would have already answered some questions based on that. What are idioms? Can you give me an example of idiom? People who are in the call, are you listening or are you just hearing so that you can? This is a session, right? You know, this is not a lecture. You're advised to reply when I ask you questions.
Actually, I have some confusion. That's why I'm not saying.
That's okay. I mean, you don't have to say anything about phrasal verb. I'm asking you a question. Do you understand idioms? And this is not just for
You
you.
mean,
There are about 9 odd people here. Haven't you heard about idioms before this?
ma'am, like it's related to
Hmm.
something that words
Hmm.
like that have different meaning.
So something that has got non-literal meaning, right? For so see, anytime someone asks you a question like this, instead of trying to define it, try to look for an example immediately, right? So look at an example like hit the nail on the head, right? If that is an expression I have, this is an idiom. To hit the nail on the head means to state something exactly as it is, right? So the meaning to state something exactly as it is, can you guess that from the expression hit the nail on the head? Does hit the nail on the head have a meaning of its own?
No, ma'am,
Can
not
you
No,
name?
ma'am.
not the literal.
Okay, no, no, I'm coming to that, but can it also have a literal meaning? When I say hit the nail on the head, is it something that you can that can give you a literal meaning? Yes, right. I can hit the nail on the head to pierce it in, right? But that is not the meaning. When I say idiomatic meaning, I'm not asking you to hit the nail on the head literally. When it is used as an idiom, it has a non-literal meaning, which is the other one, right? Stating things as it is, exactly. So this property of idiomatic meanings, that is meanings that are non-literal or by non-literal we mean, if you look at the words that constitute that phrase or idiom, you cannot get the meaning from it immediately, right? You cannot get it by reading the or by knowing the meanings of the words involved in the construction of that idiom because it doesn't have a literal meaning. The meaning is quite non-literal. And idioms and phrases are something that is a part of our languages as well, right? It's just that it is different from the ones in English. That's all, right? Can you try giving me an example from your language, whichever ones that you speak? An example of idiom in your language? Anyone who's willing to speak. Something from your language. It needn't be in English.
Ma'am, can I?
Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead. Try.
Yes, ma'am. In my
Hmm.
mother tongue, that is Hindi. You
Okay.
can say like "नौ दो ग्यारह हो जाना." It
No do
means
gyara ho jana means to disappear, right?
yes, ma'am.
Is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, okay. So yeah, so that is one example from Hindi. No do gyara ho jana, or so many of things, right? Naak mein dam karna, or dal na galna, asman sir par uthana. So many of those. So now when you say no do gyara ho jana, you cannot really you cannot decipher the meaning from no do gyara ho jana, right? Otherwise it is absolute nonsense. What does that mean? We do not know. We know it only because we culturally belong to that society which uses no do gyara for the act of disappearance, right? So the same problem exists in English as well. So there are many things that you may not understand because you do not culturally belong to that society, which is the reason why this topic on phrasal verbs and phrases idioms is a little tough for non-native speakers, right? So you might have to learn how to use them. You have to contextually, you should know the context in which this can be used rather than simply knowing their meanings. Okay, that is the point I wanted to tell you. Now, we are going to look at phrases, idioms a little later, but I'm going to begin with phrasal verbs because more than phrases and idioms, and by the way, idioms in Hindi, they call muhavre, right? So, proverb is lokokti and idioms are muhavra, whatever, right? So that we'll get to a little later. That's a little tougher, more difficult than this because you have to learn them as it is. But phrasal verbs still there's some kind of reprise there because some of the phrasal verbs may have literal meanings. There are phrasal verbs with idiomatic meanings, yes, but some of the phrasal verbs, they can still give you a clue from the literal meaning of it as well. Okay. So we first look at the phrasal verbs and then we move on to phrases and idioms. So phrasal verbs, then first thing that I told you is a complex. Of course, it consists of at least two words put together to give you a phrasal meaning. And second thing is idiomatic expressions, right? They most often the more frequently used phrasal verbs in English, they have idiomatic meanings, non-literal meanings, like how we discussed right now. Now, if I'm going to talk about the form aspect, which is the grammatical form, how does it look? How does a phrasal verb look? Some of the expressions you have on the screen in that box, fill in, bring up, look into, pick up, right? This is how it looks. So if I have to decode the structure from the examples I have here, what is it actually? There's a verb, then in, up, into, up, across, over. What are these?
Prepositions.
Prepositions, right? They're prepositions. But because there can be other, uh, you know, parts of the speech which can form a phrasal verb complex, we do not call it a verb plus preposition complex. Usually the word we use for it is adverbial particles. Okay. So a verb plus an adverbial particle. So remember, preposition is also an adverbial particle. Why? Adverbs can also show you time and place and direction and all of those things, right? So does preposition. So because a preposition has nature of the adverb, anything that can show you place, time, manner, they're usually grouped under the adverbial aspects. Remember, adverbial particle is different from adverb. Okay. So preposition is preposition, adverb is adverb. Adverbial particles is another larger name that you give for any word in the English language that behaves like an adverb. So when you look at that word, you probably feel that this is not an adverb, this is a preposition, or this is a conjunction, or this is some other parts of speech. But they sometimes may appear under the list of adverbial particles because they can also behave like an adverb. Okay, that's the point. So do not get confused between adverbial particles and adverb. Is this point clear? Any question that anyone has on this? Okay, adverbs are separate from adverbial particles, right? Adverbial particle is any word in the language which can behave like an adverb. Okay, that's all. But in our case, like most of the examples that we have, the complex is usually between the verb and the preposition, which is why you might have the tendency to say that, oh, phrasal verb is a complex of verb plus a preposition. But this may not be the case. There could be other adverbial particles that can come together to form a phrasal verb as well, right? But for your course, your syllabus, we have restricted it to the verb plus preposition complex. Okay, just a conceptual clarity I wanted to draw there. Okay. Now, if you just to give you a few examples, and look at words like look after, or what else do I say? Carry on, right? Carry on, or look forward, right? Look forward is already there in the example. Okay, let's say put up, right? Put up is another example. Get
Come on.
away is another example. Come on. Come on is a phrase. Yeah, it is also a phrasal verb. Yes, that's right. So several of them, right? There are plenty of them. I'm just giving you a few examples. In fact, there is something called a phrasal verb dictionary also. If anyone is interested, you can look it up online. I'm sure it is found online for free. You can, if you want, you can download it. I think that dictionary works like your ordinary dictionary. So it's what you call as a synchronic dictionary. It's a specialized dictionary because it only talks about phrasal verbs. So it can give you a few examples, but don't try to learn and by heart things from there, okay? Because that's not going to work. If you want to take a look at it, or if you want to look up for meanings when you come across a phrasal verb, then there is one dictionary specifically available for phrasal verbs. Any decent publication is fine. You can maybe look up Oxford, or even Merriam-Webster should also be good. Just check it out online. Okay, you can get more examples of phrasal verbs there, right? So this is the form of the phrasal verb. These are some examples of it. Now I want to discuss with you about the types of phrasal verbs that you have. So keep in mind that phrasal verbs, they're still verbs. So they're going to have the will behave like verbs, right? Will behave like verbs means what? What am I looking at? If when I say will behave like verbs, I'm saying that there are transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs, right? So like in the case of verb, you had transitive and intransitive, right? So you have similarly uh, transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs, right? Which means there are phrasal verbs which will require an object to complete its meaning. There are the ones, the intransitive ones, which will not need any. Like just to give you an example, um, say things like an example like how do I we ran into. Can I say we ran into and then stop there, or do I have to complete it? We ran into. Ran into is an example of a phrasal verb. Is ran into a transitive phrasal verb or an intransitive phrasal verb?
Ran into something, we have to complete the sentence, no?
Correct. You have to ran into somebody,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
or something. That's right. So it requires an object, which means this is a transitive phrasal verb, right? So you can say anything. We ran into an old friend. We ran into an old. We ran into. Uh, um, a professor from the college. We ran into a fashion architecture, right? Anything. So something has to be there. The object is required to complete the sentence, right? So this is a transitive phrasal verb. Some other example of an intransitive phrasal verb. Can you try from your side? I can also tell you, but say for example, the ran into is transitive. Let me write it down. And then another example for intransitive, it is, something like took off, right? Or wake up for that matter. Took off is what? This is intransitive. Try a sentence. The plane took off, right? Can I ask the plane took off what? No, right? Took off is complete by itself. I don't need an object to complete its sense. So this is what? This is a intransitive phrasal verb, which means it behaves like verb means it also has the transitivity nature. Some of them are transitive, some of them are intransitive. And in addition to this, there is another quality that these phrasal verbs, because it is a phrasal verb, it is more than one word. There is an aspect called separability. So you have separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. Now, what does this mean? Separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. Easy guess, you have two words in the complex. So if I'm talking about separability, I'm talking about separability between these two words, right? Can I separate these two words, right? Because we know it's a phrasal verb, it's a complex of at least two words. And if separability is the aspect you're looking at, we're essentially talking about whether these two words can be separated. In the sense, can I put something in between these two words, right? So English has both inseparable as well as separable phrasal verbs. Inseparable ones are more frequent in use than separable ones. However, in number, maybe separable verbs are more, separable phrasal verbs are more. Okay. But in idiomatic usage, when you use a phrasal verb for with an idiomatic meaning, usually inseparable ones are higher in use, right? Now, some examples of separable phrasal verb. How about, let's take the same example, ran into. So if my sentence is, I ran into an old um, friend yesterday. It's okay. I'll keep that verb out. Just a simple sentence. I ran into an old friend. Can I separate ran and into? Check it. Can I say ran? I ran an old friend into. Is that possible?
No, ma'am.
No.
No,
So
ma'am.
this is an example of an inseparable phrasal verb. So this is what I cannot. I cannot put any other element. Ideally, what is this other element? Other element is usually either a noun, right? It can either be a noun or it could be a personal objective pronoun, right? What are personal objective pronouns? Him, her, his, our, etc. Right? The objective case pronoun. Right? So ideally, if separability is possible, the element that can interfere between the two words in the complex, the verb and the adverbial particle, is either a noun, right? Or it is a personal objective pronoun like him, her, his, or our, it, etc. Right? In this case, we cannot do it. Ran into, you cannot say ran an old friend into. So what is this? This is an example of an inseparable phrasal verb, right? Now, how about, um, um, let's see, some other example which is transitive. So this is again only possible in the case of transitive phrasal verb, because in the case of intransitive phrasal verb, you don't have any object, right? Without an object, you cannot put anything in between these two, right? Subject cannot be used. There has to be an object which you can put in between these two words here, right, in the complex. So if I'm looking at some other transitive separable
For intransitive, we can take this example as he grew up in a small town. But small town, we are taking it as the subject, no ma'am?
small town is not the subject. He is the subject, no?
Okay, he grew up in a small town.
Yeah.
It's an intransitive phrasal verb, no ma'am?
He grew up. Okay, it is intransitive, but this is also the kind of intransitive verb which requires a complement to complete its sense. It's like, I went home. It's like I went home. So, go is a an intransitive verb. It doesn't need an object, but then it still needs a complement. You cannot say I went. You still have to add some complement there. So, grew up is that kind of a phrasal verb. We'll not take those and complicate. They're a little advanced. We can take something that's simpler than that because we are still discussing what this is. Okay. So let's say intransitive. So if you take the example that we used here, right? The plane took off. That is what I'm saying. The plane took off. Can I do anything with this took off? I don't have any object, right? I only have the subject here. So the question of can it interfere with anything doesn't arise because it's an intransitive phrasal verb. We may want to look if took off can be used as a transitive phrasal verb elsewhere. I am not sure about that. Let's see. Plane took off. What does the word took off here mean? What does the word took off here means? Does it mean took off in a literal sense or does it have idiomatic meaning?
Idiomatic meaning.
Idiomatic.
Right. Uh-huh. So it basically means that it has left, right? Something has left. Something has left the ground literally, but it also would mean that something has been, something has left the space, right? So this is not something that has literal meaning. And also, if you look at it grammatically, this doesn't have an object. And took off in its this meaning, you cannot use it as a separable phrasal verb. You cannot put anything in between the word took and off to make them separable. So this is an inseparable phrasal verb again. Also, that this is an intransitive inseparable phrasal verb, right? It does not have any. Yeah, Prakash, any question?
Ma'am, in the took off, he
Yeah.
took things off, he took them off.
So that meaning is more literal, right? That means you're removing something, took things off. That is a literal meaning. So it's not a phrasal verb there, right? Phrasal verb is when it has an idiomatic meaning, and which is this one, to leave something. Remove is more a literal thing, and that this is not an example of a phrasal verb in that case. Okay, took something.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we were looking for a separable phrasal verb example for that. I think we should look at that first before we proceed any further. So let's say, how would be an example?
Turned him
Let's say
down.
this one. Sorry, Don?
Turned him down. Something like that.
Don't kneel down. What is it? Sorry, did not hear you.
The word turn down, can we use the offer, something we can fill in, turned him down, something like that.
Okay. All right. I am not aware of its usage. If you can give me a sentence, then I can try and see if it is a separable one.
Turn on the light, ma'am. Turn on the light.
Turn on the light. Okay, let's see. Turn on the light. Turn on the light. So this is an imperative sentence.
It's a
How
separable
about this one?
phrasal verb, no, ma'am.
Yeah, so which means you can say turn the light on, right? That's what
Yeah,
we are
turn the
trying.
light on. Yes.
Turn the light on. Okay. So this is what? This is an example of a separable phrasal verb. So what has happened here? You have inserted a noun, basically. In this case, the object of the verb, phrasal verb turn the light on. Okay. Alternatively, if you did not have a verb here, sorry, a noun here, what could you do? I could also say, for example, uh, let's see if we can use an objective verb. Sorry. I can also say turn it on, right? That is also possible. But since this is a imperative sentence, I'm not going to use the objective thing here. But remember, if it appears in a sentence, this is also something that is separable. Which means you can either use a noun in between the verb and the adverbial particle, here turn and on, or you can also alternatively use an objective pronoun, okay, in between them. Fine. Okay, so this is about the form and structure of phrasal verbs, right? How do they function? Why is it important? What is the grammar associated with it? So one more point remains in the grammar, particularly with respect to the grammar of the phrasal verb. Because it's a verb. Remember, I told you it behaves like a verb, right? One of the points that we have discussed is that we began with it, that uh, they behave like verbs. So if they behave like verbs, what do verbs grammatically do in a sentence? They inflect. What do they inflect? They inflect for tense, number. In English, tense and number, right? And number basically, in another word for that would be agreement, right? If there is an agreement requirement, then the verb inflects based on the number of the subject. Depending on whether your subject is plural or singular, the verbs inflect. The changes are seen on the verbs grammatically to indicate if the given subject is plural or singular. Similarly, change in tense, right? Whenever there's a change in the tense, again the verb gets inflected for that. Now, phrasal verb being a phrasal verb, it has characteristic features of a verb, and so it will also inflect for all the two, both of the two, tense and number, right? So, although you say come across, it can sometimes become comes across. It can also become came across, right? So every in a how just like your normal verbs inflect for tense and number, even phrasal verbs should inflect for tense number based on whatever the cues for number and tense has been given in the sentence discussed. Okay, so this is also important grammatically. Yeah, that's all about the discussion on phrasal verb, both about its form, structure, and meaning. We'll do one thing. We'll now start discussing the questions here so that it's clearer for you. Okay, I'll copy these phrasal verbs into your chat box so that it's easier for you to choose them while I scroll up the page. So take cues from the box, from the chat box. Why can I not paste it? It's not right. Yeah. Paste. Okay, just there is there. I think there are about 12 of them roughly. Choose only the ones for the ease of the understanding. I want you to choose them from the options that you have in the chat box. Okay, so I'll be scrolling up, so you won't be able to see the box after a while, which is why I've pasted it in the chat box. Let's start with the first question here. I will pass the form to you, please dash. So every time you are picking a phrasal verb, you also tell me whether it's a separable phrasal verb or an inseparable phrasal verb. Okay. Choose the correct one and tell me if it is separable or inseparable. I will pass the form to you, please dash. Choose from the options that you have in the chat box.
Fill in.
So I will pass the form to you. Please fill in. Yeah. And how about this fill in? Is fill in separable or inseparable?
Inseparable.
Okay, you cannot bring anything else in between.
We can say please fill the form, but fill and then we cannot use separate.
Uh, how about others? What are your answers?
Inseparable only.
Fill in, inseparable.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
fill in is inseparable. So I cannot say something like please fill the form in. Right? Isn't that what you're telling me?
Yes,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
cannot basically have anything interfering the two complex, right? Yeah, that's
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Okay. Fine. Let's see if it is separable or inseparable. Uh, uh, Fill the form in is a grammatical sentence in English. I did not know. Okay. People might want to believe that's what I said. There are some kind of, you may see some kind of surprises with these phrasal verbs because obviously this is not something that we as non-native speakers use on a daily basis. And if you look at the, uh, speech that Indians usually are Indian English, the presence of phrasal verbs is quite low, which is why probably we are not aware of
Aware
it.
of those.
But yeah, but we can say fill the form in, right? I can say I will pass the form to you. Please fill the form in, right? That's a right expression. So this is an example of a separable phrasal verb. Fill in is a separable phrasal. Okay, this is separable. Please fill the form in. That is possible. You can't separate it. Separable. Next one, you really need to dash this rejection.
Get over.
Yeah, get over, right? Get over. You really need to get over this rejection, right? Now, how about get over? Can I say you really need to get this rejection over?
No, ma'am, we can't separate.
No, no, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Usually, see, some of this you can also make a guess from your
Yes, ma'am.
daily context, right? These
Yeah.
words are actually pretty common. So get over is what? This is an inseparable phrasal verb. You cannot separate. You cannot, for example, say get the rejection over or get the flu over, for so on and so forth. This is an example of an inseparable phrasal verb. You have to use always, these words have to be always put together to give its expression or its meaning clearly, right? Then third one, we will dash the matter in tomorrow's meeting. This blank may have multiple answers.
Look
I'll
into
let
the
you.
matter.
Look into.
Look into.
We will look into.
Ma'am,
Yeah, we will look into.
look,
Yeah,
look after.
we will look after the matter. No, no. Look after has a very specific meaning. And it doesn't fit this one. Look into is fine. We will look into the matter in tomorrow's meeting. So look into. How about look into? Is it separable, inseparable? What do you think it is?
It is separable.
Is it separable? Can I say we will look the matter into in tomorrow's
No,
meeting?
ma'am.
No,
No,
madam.
this is also inseparable. This is also inseparable,
No,
right? Look into is an inseparable phrasal, but we cannot separate them. Okay, so get over, look into, both are inseparable. Then comes the next one. I dash a giant cheetah hidden in the bushes on my way back.
I come
Come
across.
across.
Came across. See, remember the last point that we mentioned? You need to inflect the phrasal verb depending on what tense your sentence specifies, right? I came across a giant cheetah hidden. It has the past participle there, which means you need to mention the past tense there. A
Yes,
giant cheetah hidden in the bushes on my way back. Came across. Now, how about came across? Can I say I came a giant cheetah across hidden in the bushes?
No, no.
No, right? So came
no,
across
ma'am.
or come across again is an example of an inseparable phrasal verb. Okay. Then comes I dash to meeting with you. So just give me a moment, guys. You listen to me.
Look forward.
Look forward.
Separable, can I say look forward? I look. Um,
No, madam.
no, right? So you cannot bring in anything in between look forward also. Look forward is also an example of inseparable phrasal verb. You cannot bring in anything in between that, right? Then comes the next one. The engagement was dashed due to reasons not known to us.
Call
Called
off.
Called off.
Called off.
Called off.
Called off.
The engagement was called off due
Called
to
off.
reasons not known to us. Is this separable? Call off.
Called off. Call off. No,
The
ma'am.
engagement
No, ma'am.
was.
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Look at it carefully. Just don't look at the sentence given alone. Try to form another sentence with that and try to
The
understand.
engagement was
Ma'am, we can use like he
Huh.
called it off. He called
He
it off, or
called it
he.
off is fine. He called it off. Okay, he called it off. So you're using an objective pronoun in between. So in a different context, I can also say that he called the engagement off. He called the meeting off. He called the wedding off. Yeah, it's
Yes,
possible,
ma'am.
right?
ma'am.
With similar meaning, with the same meaning, right? So call off is a separable phrasal, right? You can have an objective pronoun, or you can also have a noun like an engagement or meeting or something that interferes between these components, right? So this is an example of a separable phrasal, right? Call off is also a separable phrasal. Then seventh one, what I thought would be the most memorable moment has dash a nightmare.
Turn
Bring up
down.
Turned into.
Turn-
Turned into.
Turned into.
Turned into, yeah. So has turned into a nightmare. Has turned into a nightmare. Now, how about turn into? Can it be separated? Say another example. If I tell you the caterpillar turned into a butterfly. So can I say the caterpillar turned a butterfly into?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Right? That's not
No,
possible.
ma'am.
You cannot have anything interfere the complex again. So turn into is also an example of inseparable phrasal verb, right? Turn into here basically is a transformation, right? A change in form. Okay. Turn or into separately, if you know the meaning of turn and into, there it is not going to give you the meaning of turn into, which is why it is called idiomatic, right? So again, inseparable phrasal verb, turn into. Then she should have this eighth one. She should have thought well before dash the offer dash. Now the sentence already tells you this is a separable phrasal verb. You just need to pick up the phrasal verb. Before dash the offer dash.
Picking the offer up.
Before picking up the offer.
Look into. Before looking into.
Which one? Sorry, picking the offer up. No, pick up is not used in that sense. Pick up is not that.
Looking into.
Looking the offer into? No. Look into we already looked at. No, it is an inseparable phrasal verb. You cannot use it here.
1 second, ma'am. Let me think.
Yes. Just read through. It's just right there in front of your eyes.
I'm called the offer off.
Did the offer off? No.
Turn down. Turn down.
Turn down. So how will you fill it in? I want you to tell me how exactly you will write. Turn down is the right answer, but you need to inflect it.
What I thought would be the most memorable.
Turn the offer down.
You'd have thought.
Turning the offer down. Yes. She should have thought well before turning the offer
down.
Yeah. Turning the offer down. Okay, so turn down. Turn down, what does it mean? Rejecting, right? So turning the offer down. That is how you write it. Okay, so this is separable, obviously, because you have a noun interfering the complex and you have inflected it for the contextual grammatical meaning of the sentence. Okay. Ninth
And
one,
can we
Amy's
also
Pick
closest.
her up.
Sorry?
Could
Ma'am,
you,
can we ma'am, can we use bring up, bringing the offer up, or calling the
No,
offer up?
No. Bring up is a very different, the meaning is very different. Call off and bring up have very different meanings. That doesn't fit
Okay, ma'am.
semantically in that discussion. Yeah, so Amy school closes by 2 p.m. Could you please dash her dash by 10? This is again
pick
separable.
her up? Pick her up.
Pick up.
Pick her up. Pick
Pick
her
her
up.
up.
Yeah, pick her
Pick
up.
her
So
up.
pick her up is not literally pick her up. It basically means to accompany, right? Accompany that person from
Yes,
somewhere.
ma'am.
Okay, let's pick her up. Okay. Then 10th one, the puppy looks very sick. Please dash him well.
Look after him well.
Look
Look
after.
after
Look
him.
after.
Look after him well. Now, is it separable? Look him after. Is that a possibility?
Yes,
No.
ma'am.
No.
Look him after. Look, please look him after well. No.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
ma'am.
look him
Yes,
after
ma'am.
well. No. You can't say look him after well. You have to say look after him well. Okay. Please look after him well. Look after is an example again of what? This is an example of a transitive inseparable phrasal verb, right? So this is also inseparable. Then 11th one, don't dash this dash before mother. You know that she doesn't like discussing such things. Again, example of separable phrasal verb. Can you
Bring up.
Bring
Don't
up.
bring up.
don't
Bring
bring
up.
this up, right? Don't
Bring
bring
this
this
up.
up
Bring.
before mother. Yeah. Don't bring this up before mother. The last one in there, I am not available for the weekend, but feel free to dash to me anytime during the weekdays.
Reach
Reach
out.
out.
out. Reach out.
Reach
Reach out.
out. Reach out. Reach out, is it separable, inseparable?
Ma'am, ma'am, separable.
Inseparable.
Ma'am, separable.
Separable. Okay,
Meow.
so
Please,
can you give me an example of how reach out is used
please
as a
reach.
separable one?
Please reach me out after the meeting.
No, please reach me out is wrong. You have to always say, please reach out to me. That's how it is. Okay. So reach out is an example of an inseparable intransitive phrasal verb. Okay. So what
Okay,
is this
ma'am.
one? The example you have here, feel free to reach out to me, or she reached out for help, or he reached out to his old friends. Reach out is a, what's the meaning of reach out?
You can contact.
Contact.
Contacting.
Yeah. To contact someone. That's what reaching out means. So this is an inseparable phrasal verb, right? You cannot have anything interfering. Or noun or pronominal word can interfere in between these two words in the phrasal verb, right? So that's all. You know, the phrasal verb is an otherwise easy to understand thing, but the problem is learning them because of their idiomatic expressions. You might have to listen and watch more of English content to know how they are used and in what context they are used to learn their meanings, right? Just looking at them, a list of them will not help your case. You'll have to engage with them more in its actual use, right? Which means you will have to watch and listen to more content done in English, right? It's a very important part. Any English proficiency, if you're taking a list, speaking test particularly, people are going to look at your proficiency with the use of phrasal verbs. Your ability to use phrasal verb effectively would be a good marker of your proficiency, particularly fluency in the English language, right? Very abundantly used, very important for corporate communication, very important for, normal personal communication with people who are English speakers. Please watch out on this one. Spend some good time practicing them. Okay, they are actually useful in terms of spoken English.
Sure.
Okay,
ma'am.
so yeah,
Ma'am,
Okay, ma'am.
ma'am, one small.
yeah. Go ahead.
Ma'am, in the seventh question,
Hmm.
can I believe
Ah.
I turned my most memorable moment into a nightmare. Can you say that?
I turned my most memorable moment to nightmare. It's a grammatically good sentence, but it is not a semantically sound sentence. Which means you won't hear many English speakers, make a sentence like that. I turned my. The moment you say turned, you need to have an agentive, role in place, which can actually turn something in. Right? So I turned my most memorable moment into a nightmare. You never do that on your own, right? Even if you have agency, you will not do that knowingly or actively. These things happen, right?
Right. Right.
So you always, when you're talking about such an event, you have to make it look like, or you put it in such a way that okay, oh, this just happened, because this is ordinarily not something that someone would want to do, right? No one will do. So which is why semantically it's a little off. It is a little you bite a bit of a bone when someone says things like that. Like there's something wrong with that statement. Okay, because the meaning is not very direct. People wouldn't usually do that. That's why. Okay.
Sure.
Right.
Thanks, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. So we'll continue. We still have about 15 minutes there. So we'll begin. We will start discussing a bit about the idioms and phrases as well. Now, this is one particular topic which is important both in spoken and written language. However, in written language, one is advised, particularly formal written English, one is advised to very sparingly use idiomatic phrases or even idioms for that matter, because idioms and phrases sometimes can be very cultural, right? So unless you are someone who belongs to, you're someone who is immersed into that society, who has been a part of that society for a while, it's tough for people to decode what these idioms and phrases could be. Which is why, largely in business and corporate communication, you are advised to keep away from using too many idioms and phrases. You can use the popular ones, maybe, of course, when you're talking about idioms and phrases, there are idioms and phrases that are particular to office spaces, particular to work culture, particular to the corporate spaces, which everyone knows, right? So some of those, yes, they go well with people, but even when that is the case, it is always advised that in official or professional communication, one needs to tone down on their use of phrases and idioms more than what is required, right? More than what's necessary. If you're able to convey it using simple language, that should always be your first choice. Clarity should be your goal in corporate and business communication, not nuance or not beautification, right? So for that matter, you may not find them much in those forms of communication, those forms of English, but in your otherwise day-to-day language and daily activities, your conversations with people, just like we do, there are English speakers who would be prone to use a lot of idioms and phrases in their languages, right? So we'll look at a few examples of how this works. Or more importantly, I'm concerned with talking to you about how do you learn them rather than presenting you a huge list of idioms and phrases. So one thing is some of the idioms and phrases you can learn by visualizing them, right? So first is, of course, I don't think there's I don't have to explain you this. The first point, there's no prize for guessing this one. You have to listen to conversations. You need to watch plays, movies, series, read books, yes, but read books will come a little lower in the hierarchy in case of idioms and phrases. It can help, but it cannot help you as much as listening and watching, right? You have to watch content, listen to more content, because that is the space where you can find a lot of these idioms and phrases more than in any written work, right? So watch more content, watch more of anything that is, that belongs to the pop cultural aspect of English, right? You can listen to radio shows if you're interested. If you're more of a, listening person than watching person, then you can listen to radio shows, podcasts, right? These days you have many of them. Listen to all of them, right? Not just the BBC radio show or anything. You can listen to even, informal talk shows or anything. That's also fine. Your target is to learn the phrasal verbs or the idioms, right? So they can be found in even informal chats between people. So listening and watching is very important as far as the learning part here is concerned, more than reading, right? You can maintain if you want an idioms diary and workbook, and there is a way to that, right? So what you should do is you should pick an area of interest for you. So for example, if you're interested in learning more of idioms and phrases used to talk about daily life activities, then you choose that particular type of talk show or anything, and then make a list and make a diary on that, right? Not a diary on that, make a list in the diary that you've created for idioms on that. Or if you're a professional, then you can look for words and phrases and idioms that are more commonly used in workspace to describe work culture, to describe office culture, office communication, right? Work communication. You can make a list of those and then, try to master them. Why am I advising this? Because, see, unless you're going to use something, learn something that you have more chances to put them into use, you're not going to retain them. So if you're a doctor and then you are trying to learn some phrases that are used by, say, an engineer, then the chances of you retaining them are lower, right? Because you don't get a space to use them as commonly as an engineer would get to do that. So it's always nice to begin with learning things that are more familiar, or begin learning phrasal verbs that are going to appear more in your context than randomly learning them, right? So that would be better for you. So choose, say, 3 or 4 contexts. It could be work. If you're a student, then you can look for, something that is related to student life and, studies or something of that sort. If you are a professional, then you look for professional, phrases and idioms that are more common to your profession and in general used in work spaces and to talk about work culture. If you are in arts and some other kind of allied field, then you can look for those things, right? Begin with this. So start with this, and then once you have mastered the use of these expressions, you can slowly climb up to other domains, right? Because it's a huge thing, right? It's a vast area. There are many, many of these idioms and phrases. One cannot learn them or master them without some plan like this, right? So few things at a time. Have few domains mastered, and then you move on to the next one. Meanwhile, also keep watching and listening so that you are acquainted and you are shown how these phrasal verbs are used in the actual context. Okay. Then another thing that you can do is visualize, right? Now, visualizing in the case of idioms may not help all the time, but whenever possible, right? I have some examples on the screen for you. So, in certain cases, that kind of visualization is possible. Wherever it is possible, you can do that. But otherwise, unfortunately, you will have to learn their context. Unfortunately, you will have to know how to use them in writing, right? Sorry, in speaking, right? So look at some of the examples you have here. Cat got your tongue. Now, this is not necessarily helpful, but I think the visualization sort of gives you a clue what it means, right? So if someone, whether cat or anybody, if your tongue is held or someone has gotten a hold of it, what is the natural consequence of that? You cannot talk, right? Someone pulls out your tongue and is holding onto it, you cannot talk. So this is basically an expression used to talk about a person who doesn't speak up, who cannot stand up for themselves, right? When I say cat got your tongue, it basically means that why aren't you speaking? Why can't you speak for yourself, right? Now, snug as a bug in a rug. So the moment you have a rug and you have the word snug, you know that we are talking about something, that we are referring to something being warm and cozy. Okay, got it? Same thing with the last thing you have there, which is what? Go the extra mile. Go the extra mile, obviously making that additional effort. You don't have to do it, but you're still doing that extra mile because you want to put in some additional effort, right? Butterflies in my stomach is nervous. A lot of people think butterflies in my stomach refers to feeling scared, but feeling scared and feeling nervous are two different things. Okay. So, what is the expression that you use to talk about feeling afraid or feeling scared? Anyone knows this? Anybody who's aware of
No, ma'am.
that? There's another expression. Okay. So, have you heard about people having an adrenaline rush?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I
Some
had. I
adrenaline.
almost had. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So someone who say yesterday at my experience with bungee jumping, I had an adrenaline rush, which means what? You were afraid, right? So the adrenaline rush is directly connected to someone feeling afraid about something. Have a sudden adrenaline rush is basically connected with having a sudden fear or an uninvited, unwelcome fear. But that is different from butterflies in my stomach. Right? Feeling nervous is different. Then to go down in flames is to fall spectacularly, which means free fall. You don't know, right? Go down in flames. To say, I want someone to go down in flames means you want them to be finished. You want them to fail, right? Then once in a blue moon, I think some people say once in a blue moon while, some people simply say once in a blue moon also. So we are referring to something that happens very rarely, right? If I say that him being on time is once in a blue moon affair, it means that that person is an impunctual person. Person is never on time. Today the person is on time, which means it's a once in a blue moon affair. So a rare phenomena. Okay. So yeah, sometimes visualizing can help, but not all the time. Whenever possible, you can think about it and try to connect to it. Okay. So we'll anyway be continuing discussing this in the next class as well, but we have about 4 minutes to go, so I don't want to waste it. We will do that first exercise, which is matching the pictures with the idioms. Okay. So I'm going to again leave the idioms for you in the chat box, and then I'll show you the pictures, and then you can give me the answers to that. Okay. Okay. What is the first picture? You also try to tell me the meaning.
It's a dog eat dog world.
It's a
Cat
dog
eat.
eat dog eat a dog world. Okay. Now, what is dog eat a dog world? Very commonly used corporate expression. This is a dog eat a dog world. What does
Which
dog eat
means
a dog
one
world?
person
Some
wants to
some
overcome.
Ah,
related to betrayal.
Not betrayal. This is something that is related to competition.
Cheating.
Competition, extreme competition, right? So when you want to refer to something as an extremely competitive component or an extremely competitive space, you say, oh, it's a dog eat a dog world. Okay. So that's what it is referred to. Second one, so everybody knows.
Don't cry over spilled milk.
Don't cry over spilled milk. So this is, I think this is there in our languages as well. We don't have to know the meanings of them. This is self-explanatory, right? One shouldn't be worrying about things that you're over with, right? Things that are out of your control,
Yeah.
things which you cannot control anymore. So, sorry. Third one,
A couch potato.
A couch potato.
couch potato. Yes, the couch potato. What does that expression indicate?
Lazy.
Yes,
Lazy,
ma'am.
right? Lazy,
Lazy.
lazy, and particularly someone who's lazily around doing nothing, right? That is couch potato. Someone who's, an expression, not just a potato. It's also an expression for people who do not do anything and keep lying on the couch all day, right? So, of course, they cannot indicate it for a human, so they've used and it also needs to have an idiomatic meaning. So, couch potato. Right. Next is, next is
Race
A
against
race
time.
against time.
race against time. Yeah. Race against time means, what does race against time?
Time never
I'm
waits for us, and so we also
doing the
should.
doing the work early.
Impossible. Like doing
Yeah,
things which is
making
not possible.
workaholic.
Workaholic, okay. All of you are close to the meaning, but you're not at the exact meaning. Okay. So, race against time is
Punctual.
basically
Punctual.
punctual. No, not punctual also. This basically means to work very quickly. Okay. Very quickly because there is only little time left. Okay, say you have a submission of assignment. You need to submit something, say around 5:30. So you only have now half an hour left. So you can say that I'm racing against time to finish my assignment. This means you're trying to finish it
Last
so quickly. Yeah, the last minute thing. Yeah.
last
Not last
sprint.
minute
Yes.
thing. Last sprint, yeah, okay. It basically means to work quickly. Do something really quick because you know that there is almost no time left. Okay, that's what it is. Racing against time. Then fifth one,
All eggs in one basket.
All eggs in one basket means what? Again, a very, it's a term that's mostly used in the financial domain. So people would say all, this is usually given as a financial advice to people. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. What does that mean?
Keeping things too much complicated.
Keeping things too complicated, no way. So that's why your clue is that this is usually financial advice given to people. Do not put everything in one basket. It can have, I mean, you can connect a meaning from that, but usually it is used as a financial advice.
Too much buying.
Too
Don't
much
spend
investment.
lot.
Like, don't invest all that you have in one place. You need to diversify your investments, right?
Okay.
Okay. So which is why I said financial advice, but you can also extend it to other general things. Like, it can also mean to say that you shouldn't depend only on one plan or one option or one source. You should always have multiple things prepared. Like you say, you should have a plan A, B, C, right? So this is also, one doesn't work, you should always have something else to look up to. Do not just focus all your attention and invest your everything into one thing or one person. Try to diversify, have more collaborators for you. That's what it means. Okay. So that is putting things in one basket. Then last one, what is it?
Open a can of
Open a
worms.
can of.
Can of worms. Yes. Open a can of worms. What does that mean?
I'm showing mistake like
Hmm.
ourselves by our hand.
Okay. So you opening a can of worms basically means to complicate something or to make a situation unpleasant, right? And how? By starting something that leads to more problems or conflicts, right? So you have started off something. Now you have opened a can of worms means you have started something which can make a situation further complicated or problematic. That's what it means, right? So example for this would be some example sentence that we can use would be say something like
In Hindi पैर पे कुल्हाड़ी मारना.
sorry.
Like in Hindi पैर पे कुल्हाड़ी मारना. X on our foot.
अपने पैर पर आप कुल्हाड़ी मारना. Yeah, it's a cousin of this, not exactly the same, but yes, almost there, kind of similar, right? So say for example, if I say a sentence like, if you ask him about the mistake, you will open a can of worms, which means if you're going to ask him to, talk
Yeah.
about the person's mistake, that person is going to further complicate it by adding other things to it. Okay. So it simply means to complicate or make a situation further unpleasant. So it's already unpleasant, already there's a problem, and you are now adding more problems and complications to that. So, okay. For example, she avoided mentioning the old dispute because it would open a can of worms, right? So if you're going to discuss about your old fight, it is going to further complicate issues. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is that. And we have a bunch of others as well, which we'll take up in the next class. I think we have about a set of 6 of them and then another 10. So, of course, I cannot give you an exhaustive list. So the last one here, this third one, they are a little, they are ones that are now commonly used. They're a bit more modern than the other ones. You can see them more frequently in use in the modern English than the other ones. So we'll discuss all of them, the second and third in the next class. Okay. Okay. All right. Any questions? If not, we can sign off for today and meet next week.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. See you next week again. We'll continue.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.